In this fourth and final video detailing what I did to overcome clinical depression and OCD, and what I do actually on a daily basis to continue to manage my mental landscape, I'd like to focus on two topics. Two topics that I discovered early on were absolutely foundational for good mental health. Topic number one, be really careful what you believe. In video number two, I outlined research that suggested that much of the negative output of our internal chatterbox resulted from the conditioning that took place to our subconscious minds during our formative years. We basically observed the world around us and internalized what was going on as truth. Now, unfortunately, a lot of that stuff wasn't true, and it was also very hurtful, especially a lot of the stuff that was directed at us personally. For example, during my formative years, I don't know how this happened, but I somehow picked up the notion that I had to be perfect. So I tried and I tried, and well, you guys get the picture, right? Even at a young age, my mind kept telling me, like, how is this even possible? But I continued to just struggle and decide that I had to be perfect for some reason. Unfortunately, later on, I found out that that is a really common characteristic of people who suffer with OCD. Well, my perfection paralyzed me, and I was always overcome with fear, and I was also plagued with shame and guilt because I could never seem to measure up. And I remember one event very clearly in my mind. I had just completed one of my self-deprecating diatribes, is the best way that I can describe it. And my mom came up and she grabbed me by the shoulders and she said, "Stop apologizing for being alive. You have just as much right to be here as anybody else. No more, but no less." Well, after years of sadness and disappointment, I discovered that perfectionism tends to produce a vicious cycle. The first thing we do is we don't do anything. We procrastinate because we are afraid that if we, attempt to do something, we won't be able to do it perfect. And then I guess it's human nature. We stir ourselves up and get the juices flowing and finally decide that we have the courage to try. And then what happens? When we ultimately don't do it perfect, which usually we can't, then we go into depression because see, I knew I couldn't do it perfectly, right? Well, let's take a closer look at the word perfect. It connotes an absolute. But here's the rub. Who gets to define perfect? And in which contexts, right? In some situations, perfect is clearly defined and easily obtainable. Let's say, for example, you and I are taking a math quiz. There are 10 problems, and we get 1 point for each problem that we get right. So we get all of them right, score perfect 10. Much of life, unfortunately, is a lot more complex than a math quiz with 10 problems on it. As a professional speaker and workshop facilitator over the years, I've done many, many workshops, and many times everybody in the class has given me a perfect score. Now, to the people who attended that workshop, they decided that on some level that what I had delivered to them was perfect. Just for the record, I don't think I have ever in my entire life delivered a perfect speech, nor a perfect workshop. And in fact, this video already isn't perfect, okay? But if I'm honest with myself, I do have to admit that I have delivered a lot of excellent workshops and delivered a lot of excellent speeches over the years. I just completed this little watercolor painting a few weeks back, and it's interesting because every time I look at it, I see new things that I don't think are perfect. But I am not going to take it out of the frame and fix those things because I realize that I can never make it perfect. In fact, my standards of perfection seem to change every time I look at it. Something that bothered me the first time doesn't bother me the second time. So I'm going to leave it as it is. And I'm going to accept the fact that it's never going to be a perfect painting. If I am honest with myself again, I have to admit, though, that it is an excellent painting. Having worked myself through to the other side of perfectionism, I can share a couple of really important things that I learned with you. Number one, I believe that perfectionism is a fool's game because it's a surefire prescription for depression. Because of the fact that we can very rarely attain perfection in anything we do, we're doomed to failure. Number two, I believe, on the other hand, that pursuing excellence is a good way to carry out our lives. Because when excellence is our standard, it's often attainable. And therefore, I have set for both my standard and my goal as I go forward in my life, excellence. One day years ago, in my effort to heal, I created a list of all the truths that I had internalized early on in my life and that had, basically driven my efforts over the years and also, again, caused me a lot of grief and shame. And what I did is I decided to challenge them on paper, to refute the things that were not true. And what I did is I came up with empowering truths that were the antithesis of those false truths and beliefs that I had. And I formulated affirmations. And I ran those over and over again to basically reprogram my mind away from those negative and hurtful things to things that were more empowering and allowed me to live the kind of life that I want to live. In fact, this is my most current list of affirmations. I basically created this just a couple of months ago, and there are quite a few of them on here. I go over these on a regular basis. In fact, I've actually tape recorded them behind some inspirational music, and I listen to them on a regular basis as part of my meditation practice. It has made an incredible difference in how I think about myself. Folks, my life experience has taught me the importance of vetting so-called truth before we go ahead and internalize it and use it to order our lives. In fact, if you were to talk to my wife or one of my children, they could tell you how many times over the years they've heard me say, question everything. And they tease and they say, everything, Dad? And I say, everything. Folks, I believe that truth with a capital T can stand up to any amount of scrutiny, any breadth, any depth. And on the other side of that analysis, it will still be true. Falsehood, on the other hand, can never stand up to such scrutiny. It will wither and die during such a process. And I also believe it's important to remember that today's truth can become tomorrow's falsehood. For example, years ago when I was in high school and I was taking chemistry, this will look familiar to those of you who took chemistry in the day, we learned in a chemistry class that the first element on the periodic table of the elements is the basic building block of the universe. Today, that is false science. There are other things that play a much larger role in the construction of our universe, such as dark matter and dark energy. And so I believe very, very much that seekers of truth need to have two things as we go forward in our lives. One is an open mind, and the other one is a humble heart. History is actually replete with examples of people, even scientists, who clung to their beliefs and their theories even after they were proven wrong. And you sit back and you wonder, why do we do such stuff? There are a number of reasons, obviously, but I think one of them is that we are afraid of change. It's interesting how we as human beings resist change, even changes that are going to be positive and that are going to help us out on the other side. And then I believe one additional factor is that we wrap our beliefs up in our ego. And that is a very problematic process. It leads to no good end, at least in my experience. I love this quote by P.C. Hodgel. That which can be destroyed by the truth should be. And I believe that with all my heart. We shouldn't be running around running our lives with things that are not true. when empowering truths could help us live much more rewarding lives. Before I move on to topic number 2 that I wanted to talk about today, I'd like to say a few words about the role that intuition plays in my life when it comes to making important decisions like, what should I do with my life's work? Yes, I do my research, and yes, I seek expert advice, but after all said and done, I go internally for my answers. I have found that over the years, this has served me very well. In fact, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, meditation has become a very important part of my life, and I have a daily meditation practice. Years ago, I read a very interesting article in a business periodical. The author had basically queried the readership making over a certain amount of money a year and said, what process do you use when it comes to making the most important decisions that have to do with running your business? The results were astounding. To the person, every single one of these business executives said something like this. Well, I listen to my gut, or I go by my intuition, or I listen to my inner voice. Very, very interesting. Galileo Galilei, the great polymath, said, "You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him find it within himself." And it was the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu who said, "To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders." Topic number 2. You have to love yourself if you want to live a happy and productive life. Some people claim that the most intelligent and gifted among us are those most likely to succeed in life. My years as a teacher and a personal coach compel me to disagree with that belief. I have observed, and I believe deeply, that those who are most successful in life are those who love themselves deeply and deem themselves worthy and deserving of a happy and productive life. When we were young, we were all taught to treat other people the way that we wanted to be treated, with kindness and respect, and I believe that most of us tried to do that. However, some of us did not apply that same standard to ourselves. In fact, I believe that some of us never learned a very, very important truth, and that is this. You really can't love another person deeply unless you first love yourself. I agree with this quote from the great comedian Lucille Ball, who said, "Love yourself first and everything else falls into line." You really have to love yourself to get anything done in this world. Friends, I believe in a loving creator who doesn't make mistakes. And I believe that everything in this universe has been made for a purpose, including you and me. Furthermore, I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I believe that each of us has been gifted with a body that is perfectly suited to the things that we wanted to experience and learn in this life, and what we wanted to help other people learn and experience in this life as well. And because of that uniqueness, I believe that all of us are fitted to make a unique contribution to this world. And here's the scary thing. And it's something that I hope each of us takes time to ponder. If we don't make our unique contribution to this world that we came here to make, who will? Since we are the only ones capable of doing that, the world will be less because we did not do what we came to do, or as some people say, we died with our music still in us. I am convinced, my friends, that in order to live a truly happy life, we have to have the courage to fully be ourselves. We need to love, honor, cherish, encourage, develop, compliment, and especially we need to learn how to forgive ourselves. And I suggest that we each partner with our loving Creator to help us realize the highest vision of our individual lives. Including this 4th and final video outlining what I did to conquer clinical depression and OCD all those years ago, and how I continue to maintain my mental landscape on a daily basis, my wish would be that the things that I have shared over the past couple of months might help give hope to those who are currently struggling mentally, that they too can, just as I did so many, many years ago. I would like to leave you with this quote from one of my many mentors, those who helped me along the way in my life's journey. This comes from Eckhart Tolle. If you had not suffered as you have, there would be no depth to you as a human being, no humility, no compassion. To which I say amen. Be well, my friends, and create for yourself an extraordinary day.